Hello and thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozugbakun. The race by humanity to defeat the deadly coronavirus pandemic is still on. Join the fight by observing all safety precautions against its spread. Today on the program, Nigeria records highest number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 as Governor Sanwo-Olu announces new measures to ease lockdown bans motorcycles operations across Lagos. I'll be hanging out with Babajide, Kolade-Otitoju and Solomon Ajuziogu. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Like a troubling prophecy, every prediction points to a spike in the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. But we banked on hope for a reversal. For 2 successive days, the country has witnessed record cases, the latest being 196 infections recorded on Wednesday. Lagos, the country's commercial nerve center, continues to be the epicenter of the epidemic, recording 87 out of the latest figure. With a planned ease of lockdown looming, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, announced new measures to guide the people. The chief among the guidelines is the ban on motorcycle operations. Let's hear from the governor.
Our public officers in the entire unified public service from grade 1 to grade 12 will remain and work from home unless otherwise directed by the accounting officer. For all in grades 13 and above, the accounting officer will carry out a need assessment of critical staff, identify the essential office, and draw up a flexible work roster in compliance with social distancing principle. All open market and stores will be allowed to open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on selected days. Malls also will be allowed to open, like I said, with a proviso that they will not have more than 60% occupancy at any given time, the maximum, whilst ensuring that a 2-meter distance is maintained between every person and the next in the store. Eateries and restaurants will also be allowed to open between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., but they shall only do takeaways. There will not be permitted any form of in-dining service whatsoever. All suspected cases of COVID-19 must immediately be reported at the state helpline, which is 08,000 267 662. On education, all schools and institutions at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels will continue to remain physically closed. Students are expected to continue learning alternative online and media channels as announced by the various institutions of learning. Religious organizations, all places of worship, be it formal or informal, will remain closed from any form of congregational service or assemblage until further notice. All commuters are mandated to wear face masks at all times, to sanitize with alcohol-based sanitizers, and to wash their hands with soap and running waters at every trip. All transport operators and companies are expected to sanitize their vehicles, their parks and garages regularly and continuously, at least before and after every trip. All transport operators and companies are expected to have at the entrances of their respective parks hand washing equipment with running water and temperature reader to test every passenger before boarding. All buses should load to a maximum of 60% of their full capacity, meaning that if your capacity is 10 passengers, you cannot load more than 6 at any given time. No standing in all BRT and the Lagos bus service bus operation. All air conditioning systems in the public service, in all these public systems also must be switched off. All operators, drivers and conductors are also mandated to wear face masks and hand gloves while in transit and to dispose same appropriately. Commercial motorcycles, popularly known as Okadas, are to be suspended even after the partial lockdown because they cannot observe social distancing on this Okada, so they will still not be allowed as a means of transportation. However, the tricycle will be restricted to 2 passengers maximum if you need to operate at all. With companies that choose to operate within this controlled easing environment would operate within the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. They're also directed to operate at the maximum of 60% of their staff capacity. At the maximum of 60% of their staff capacity.
Babajide, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu there, giving a breakdown of the partial opening, because the president actually said it in a speech that it's going to be a phased, opening of the economy, and Governor Sanwo-Olu has blazed the trail by actually defining what that means. The biggest of all is like an automatic ban of Okada. Before, there was some local governments, you could talk about Okada. They had designated local government that they ban Okada outrightly. But right now, what the Lagos State Governor has just said now, that even after this phase, that the use of Okada in Lagos has been officially proscribed. Babajide?
Well, the truth is, they cannot observe social distancing because your passenger sits very close to you. So because the passenger sits very close to you, it's impossible to achieve social distancing while you are on the commercial motorbike. So even if the governor would want to let them carry on with their work, it will breach the social distancing principle.
7
because
meters
it is impossible
spacing, 6
for
meters
you.
Spacing.
And these guys are experts at breaking the law. They still carry 2 passengers as we speak. You see Okada riders exploiting the fact that there are passengers out there to carry. So they carry 2 passengers, they take off from Akute, and they are going to Baga. So there's no way the government can allow that to continue. So at this time of our war against the coronavirus, we cannot allow the motorcycles to operate, even in places where they were hitherto allowed to operate. We can't allow them to operate at this time because it will breach the social distancing principle. So that's basically why we had to take that decision. As for the buses, the yellow buses, what the governor is saying is you cannot take more than 60% of your capacity. We all know that these guys will not obey.
If it's 10, you take 6 people.
They will not obey. They will just be watching the governor as he says it. And the problem is not in making these pronouncements. The problem is not that we do not have laws. The problem is in the enforcement. So if the security operatives who are meant to enforce these directives compromise, there's nothing anybody can do about it.
And also these commercial bus drivers, they have a union, NURTW. The one of Lagos State is led by MC Oluomo.
Yes.
And it should be able to work with government and to ensure that this is enforced.
Now, I've looked at some of the measures that the governor has put in place. It is impossible for MC Oluomo to ensure that all of those conditions are met, even if he has 10 heads. It is impossible for him, and I say this with a high sense of responsibility, that this is something that I can personally, on my own, do an investigation to show clearly that these measures would not, I repeat, would not be adhered to by all transporters. You are saying that at the end of every trip, they should fumigate their vehicles. They will not fumigate their vehicles at the end of every trip. You are saying that the bus drivers and their conductors must wear face masks, must put on hand gloves at every point, and must have sanitizers at every point inside their vehicles.
I just have the picture of an average conductor in Lagos. My mind, sometimes hand sanitizer, face mask, gloves, a conductor.
No, we know them now. That this laws, they will not obey these laws. And that is why some of us are worried. Because when you now relax these measures that you have put in place to help us defeat this pandemic, the human element, we have not done something about the human element. Individuals who do not, there are so many of them who do not even believe that this disease exists. Yet we need them to obey these protocols laid down for us to defeat this pandemic. Will our people agree to do all that the government has outlined that they should do? Even in advanced countries where there is a higher level of literacy. You and I watched a video where a security operative had to sweep a guy up his feet by a kick. Because he was found wandering on the streets.
Yes.
Some of them
calculated one.
Some of them
swept him off his feet.
Some of them chose to leave their homes and be jogging when they were told to stay inside. So if the Italians had not effectively enforced the draconian measures that they put in place, they won't be making the progress that they've made today that the whole world can see. Even Spain has overtaken Italy in terms of fatalities. So this is the thing. My problem is with our people.
Now, Solomon, one other big thing is that all places of worship remains closed until further notice. You know, in Nigeria, we're very religious people. This is Ramadan time now. We want to go for the regular lectures for Ramadan. Churches want to go for night vigils. They want to congregate. And in the last 5 weeks, they've not been able to do that. And for you to tell churches that till further notice,
well, it's understandable.
Quite difficult.
It's not a matter of being very religious people. Religion is a social facet that every society observes, whether it's in the US or anywhere. Some of the biggest churches in the world are in some of the advanced countries, so that is not even the point. The point also is that since this whole thing started, I think that the religious organizations have been, as far as Lagos is concerned, have been some of the most cooperative in all of this. Some of the religious organizations have been very, very cooperative in adhering to the order of government to stay away from every social gathering, to disband every social gathering. They've done so well at that to help also keep this low, because when you remember what happened in South Korea, where the 31st patient went to church on the 9th and on the 16th of March and then infected a whole church. That also happened in Singapore, where a whole church was shut down after people were infected in the church. So it's always a place where people sit close and tight. So it's a good thing, in the first place, that the churches are adhering, the mosques are adhering. But having said that, in the first place, whether there is a coronavirus crisis or not, Okada has never really been a proper mass transit means. The reality on ground, the poverty.
Even for a mega city.
Whether for a mega city like or not for a mega city, the truth of the matter is that I grew up. When I grew up, my father had a bike. It was not for Okada. He took it to work. He took me on his bike to work. You understand? And you do not see, in those days, you don't see motorcycles used as means of mass transit on the road. So it's not supposed to be in the first place. And so for me, since the lockdown started, or since the coronavirus crisis started, I have stayed away from taking bikes. You know, I trek a whole 1 kilometer long street. My street is that long, 1 kilometer. I trek wherever I want to go to, and I avoid motorbikes. Now, what the governor of Lagos State has done is what I call a strategy, because yesterday I talked about strategy. The president spoke generally, but the governor of Lagos State has given us strategy. And as Jide pointed out, good strategy. We have seen that he has come to the specifics, but how do we enforce the specifics will be the challenge. Okay, so we need to look at that. Now, before the president gave the order to lock down, Lagos State had also started from what the governor has said right now. Lagos State was the first to start. And I took a walk to some of the parks to see how the people were actually adhering, before the president announced the lockdown of Lagos, the total lockdown. And one of the things I discovered was they were carrying passengers as normal. Some of them decided, use the sanitizers. Some did not use the sanitizers. And I wondered who was enforcing all of this. So my problem is, who is going to enforce all of it? Because so far we have seen examples over this 1 month of laxity in enforcement. And I think that that's something we need to correct.
Jide, one other gray area and something that is of very important to parents. Yes, it's all schools remain closed. Some schools, they've begun online classes and everything, but knowing the way it is, some of these schools, they've started agitating for school fees. Yes, even for the online thing. Now, most of those schools, they sustain the running of the schools with that school fees by paying their teachers. It's like, it's not a big business. They live by paying every time. They need to, they depend on the school fees to pay their teachers. So the whole of April, I'm sorry, some of the teachers will end up not getting any salary, and this thing is still further notice. So we are facing May now. So the future of those primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, especially in the private sector, is looking bleak.
Well, there is a reason to be grateful that they are alive. Every sector will be affected by this, whether we like it or not. And this is not a problem peculiar to Nigeria. The Italians have said that schools will reopen in September. We are in the same world, and we are affected more or less by the virus in similar ways. So schools can still pay half of the salaries of their workers. To not pay them anything makes no sense. I also do not think that it makes sense for schools to go to the point of saying pay 40% of boarding fees. Because some Shylock school proprietors have begun telling parents to pay 40% of boarding fees when the children are with their parents at home. How do you tell them to pay for services that they are not enjoying?
And where do you want the same parents to even get this money? They're all at home.
They too are facing the kind of problem that you are facing. So you can't deflect your pain to other people. It makes no sense. We are in it together, and everyone should realize that, look, this is the time for sacrifice. We all must come out and sacrifice. So this is the thing. And it also reinforces the need, even for schools that are doing well, to save. You save for the rainy day. Although, in a situation like this, just like the CEO of Airbus said yesterday, even when you save, those savings can be eroded in good time, in record time, because you are not earning income
at all.
So we have to find a balance. We can't we can't open schools now. It will be irresponsible of government to open schools at this time. Nobody is doing it because the children are very vulnerable. Schools are crowded places, just like churches and mosques. We can't open them now. If we open them now, then we have. It's like we are saying COVID-19. Come and deal with us if you can. We can't open schools. This one is not something to be sentimental about. Children are vulnerable. We have to protect them as much as we can. Some of them will write exams. They can bring back those who will write exams, but ensure that the social distancing policy is obeyed.
Okay, I have my first caller. Elder Dari is calling us from Kaduna State. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, Babajide, please, I would like this face mask. I want one from Kaduna, please. I will need one to be sent to me.
This face mask?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, give your number to the producer.
It's rather unfortunate that some school proprietors will be asking for school fees at this time. Just like Babajide said, we are in it. It's not exempting anybody. Everybody is experiencing what everybody is passing through. But you see, what I want to say is, let's hold on to what government asks us to do. Let's keep to these simple instructions. It is unfortunate that when they ask us to do one thing, we do the other. Please, let's keep this thing in check. It is real. Good evening.
All right, thank you, Elodari. Solomon, we are talking about controlled easing for face of all businesses, for all businesses, that banks and companies, all staff must work between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Maximum capacity for the staff on ground. Like, let's say TVC now, if we are 100, it is expected that the people that work will not exceed 60.
Yeah, this is where the calculations begin to come in.
Others should work from home.
Yeah, this is where the calculation begins to come in, and this is where the issue of specific strategy, when you are strategizing about how to implement. Because every time I hear people talk, and nobody is talking about what specific area and how do you, it means that work times will have to change. I have seen people carry on as if we're in normal times. Maybe because they've not had gunshots, and so they do not understand the magnitude of the crisis we are in. So people are carrying on as if we're in normal times. Journalists go to cover news as if it is a normal time you go to cover news. You know, there is a new protocol that should be in place for the coverage of news at this critical time. So in the workplace, if normally the work time is 8 hours, in order to be able to work within the defined time that government has spelled out, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. means that you have to reduce the working time from 8 hours to probably 5-6 hours. And then you have to split it into two in such a way where you will not have crowded office spaces. Those who can work at home.
Look at the example. A typical example is, look at where Governor Sanwo-Olu is standing addressing.
Exactly.
And look at the way they are spaced.
So we're talking about strategies, because now if you are saying that I have to be in my house by 8 p.m. because the curfew takes effect from 8. If the curfew takes effect from 8 p.m., it means that everybody cannot be on the road at the same time. You know what Lagos traffic tells you. So you are going to ask me to close at 4 o'clock. You have to ask me to close at 4 o'clock. It's not normal time. So it means that the man who has to work will then have to work 5 hours, go home, so that he can get home early.
Yes.
You understand?
You can't close that 8 p.m.
You can't close.
The curfew starts.
No, you can't close 8 p.m. You can't close at 4 p.m.
They didn't even say you should work up to 8 p.m. The banks, for example, have been told to close at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Yes. So if you close at 2 p.m., you have enough time to get home. You know. Then other offices, they shouldn't exceed 3 p.m. That's enough time to break the curfew. To get home before the curfew takes effect.
So part of it, I have all beaches, clubs, gyms, salons, cinemas, swimming pools remain closed.
Yeah.
We like enjoyment in Lagos.
It's not Lagos alone, even Abuja.
Lagos and Abuja, particularly because
all those are our friends who go to Gimbia, all those places where they eat fish in Abuja. If you see the kind of fish they eat in Abuja, almost as tall as I am. So it's not Lagos people alone.
I think this one's going to a strip club. Strip bar. Yeah, street bar. Even at this coronavirus season.
Yeah. In addition to the school thing, I have observed with curiosity the school thing, and I've been asking myself, how does a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old go through online lectures? How does it receive?
Your parents will need to support you.
There are some things that are not just feasible; they won't work. There are some things that are not just feasible because you cannot teach a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old who cannot sit down to watch PJ Masks for 5 minutes, will not be able to sit online to receive lessons. Besides, it's not PJ Masks. And so what I'm just saying is, look, there are some things we need to define properly, which is those who are going to sit for NECO, WAEC. The question I ask is, who will run the online lessons? The schools they attend or a government platform? Because these are things you need to define properly because there is an examination standard.
The schools are doing that.
They'll come out with
the problem is if you're asking the schools to do that.
Has just broken it down, so it's not left for
the
all
schools are
other
already
sectors.
doing that.
One by
but we'll
one.
have issues with the schools if the schools are doing that and they are going to be charging you money.
No, they are doing that. My children, every day, they are given assignment to do.
Yes.
Schools are doing that already.
I think we should wait and see how it unfolds. I'll take this break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this time out. It's a multi-award-winning program, Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from Television Continental here in Lagos, Nigeria, and we're still looking at the COVID-19 pandemic ravaging the world, and we're talking about the commercial capital of the country now, that's Lagos State. We're breaking it down. According to the governor yesterday, he had to give a breakdown on how to ease the face of the new that we're going to use to run the economy and how the state will run ahead of Monday. Now, Babajide, other thing that was actually proposed was talking about elevator 50% markets to open around 9 and close 3 p.m.
I'm not so worried about whether markets open.
Okay.
I'm worried about whether the traders will use face mask, whether they will all use face mask, whether social distancing will be achieved. Because you look at our markets, let's not even mention some of those markets. Balogun, Okeani. A lot of our people have been at home. People have been at home for so long. The way they would descend on those markets.
Oh no. Oh no.
It will be worse than the way U.S. Marines, those of them who are paratroopers, the way they descend on
the amphibious
on an area where they are fighting. So the issue now is, how do we enforce? The government has said that traders must use the face mask. Because what the face mask does is that it ensures that even if you are carrying the virus, you do not infect
the person close to you.
Yes, with the droplets coming out of your mouth and all that. But if we still do not maintain social distancing, we are hugging ourselves, maybe they are not seeing themselves for so long. You know, traders who are neighbors, their shops are close to one another. Oh, they are hugging and all that. This thing will be transmitted. But even in all of this, frankly, my greatest fear is with those drivers, those transporters. Because if I reel out all of the guidelines
for the transporters,
you know that they will not.
I think we have to challenge the leadership of NYTW across the country, especially Lagos State, that GD has challenged, he has thrown this challenge, and he has said, you guys cannot achieve this.
Okay, look
And
at
he's so
that.
sure
Look
about
at look
it.
at that.
The market.
No, look at that butcher that they just showed us. You saw what he did. He had the face mask, but he did not use it to cover his face in any way. Look at him. Is that the way it's used? The purpose is defeated when you put the face mask on your chin.
And to achieve social distancing in the markets like this.
You know, that the butcher that was shown earlier.
Yes, I saw it.
You know, you refuse to cover your nose with your mouth with it. So at the end of the day, it's just a waste of time that you are putting it on. So this is the thing. Our markets, especially in Lagos, are usually crowded. So
Densely
this is my
populated.
fear. Everywhere, when they lift this, there have been examples when they lifted this, when they eased this lockdown, they experienced a spike. The Ghanaians have done so well, especially with testing. They've done more than 68,000 tests already. They are far ahead of us in testing. But the moment the Ghanaians eased the lockdown, there was a spike in cases. It's the same thing with the Germans. The Germans are among the best in handling this pandemic. They've done extremely well. The woman has provided leadership that you can argue is not lacking, that is lacking in the US. She has provided leadership. And it's a good thing that she is a scientist.
Angela Merkel.
Yes, she's a scientist. So she understands what needs to be done. But the moment they lifted, they eased the lockdown, Germany experienced a spike in cases. So that's why I'm worried.
Solomon,
that's why I'm worried.
A lot of Nigerians, they've expressed that fear too. That, look, the president, people actually pressurize the president to actually ease the lockdown. Now, a lot of people are afraid that, look, we might regret what we're about to do on Monday.
And naturally, they should be, because we've been here before. The world has been here before. In 1918 to 1920, when we had the Spanish influenza, there were 2 waves of infection. The first wave had the lower level of infections and of deaths, basically. And there were lockdowns all over the place. And then people stayed at home for very long. We had too many inconveniences, as it were.
Over 50 million people died.
Eventually, when the lockdowns were lifted, people rejoiced as if it was Christmas, you know, the sort of jubilation like Nigeria is winning a match, and then you have a situation where maybe the Super Eagles wins a match like we had in 1996 when we won the Olympic gold medal. So you had a situation like where people trooped to the street and were celebrating with abandon, and then the second wave came. So naturally, people are expecting, they are very expectant that from Monday they will be able to go back to work. They'll be able to meet old friends again. They'll be able to visit their friends again. They'll be able to, in a bit, sort of socialize. And so this is where I keep harping on behavioral change communication. We need to roll out the drums. This is where we need to actionably, we need to really get vigorous with our campaign, with our enlightenment, with, you know, really telling people what this is. This is not a jubilation time. The fact that we are relaxing it does not mean that people should hit the streets with reckless abandon. I must also confess that the face mask thing is catching on. It's catching on. In fact, I see people everywhere now walking what was not there before. It's catching on. We need to, you know, intensify the campaign, but importantly, behavioral change has to be. People need to exercise restraint. Don't be surprised that by the time you say on Monday that, you know, the lockdown is eased, some people will want to hold churches. Some people want to hold gatherings.
Don't even understand that.
Some people will want to...
There are limits to this already. They think that it's total lifting.
You understand? That's the way some people will have to interpret it.
Define it.
No, it's not just enough that the governor has spoken. We need to meet the people on their turf in the language that they understand, so that they will know that this is not, Shiwale, because some of them are called Shiwale, on Shiwale.
Okay. And my own greatest concern is that in our own case, we have set a record. We are easing the lockdown at a time when we are experiencing record spike in cases. Me, I don't know any country that has done that. It's just like the governor of New York.
It's quite worrisome.
Yeah, it's just like the governor of New York saying, oh yeah, at this point, we ease the lockdown. Of course, the man has refused to do that. Malaysia, the numbers have tapered down. But they still went ahead and extended the lockdown. But in our own case, we are experiencing spike.
In spite of the lockdown, we're not even adhering to the lockdown protocols. We are not at home. We are not staying at home.
The people, usually the pretense under which you ease lockdown in situations like this is usually economic. And so the question I ask is, what is the economic strength? What is the strength of the Nigerian economy? Higher than New York or California, or higher than Italy or Spain or Germany, that we have not even gotten to the peak, as it were. The model shows that we have not gotten to the peak.
I have Emmanuel from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Emmanuel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, please, I want to employ our government. They need to throw in everything they have into enforcing some of these measures. It's not enough to just reel out measures without a feasible enforcement plan. The enforcement would make a difference between life and death. We should have serious enforcement. That's the only way we will not experience a second wave. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Emmanuel. Now, Babajide, of the 36 states we have, when we started, it was like 15, 20, 22. Now we just have 2 more states that they are yet to confirm. They yet to have confirmed cases. Not saying that this is not in any way saying that they don't have in those states, but it is our capacity to test, as we've always said on the program, that will show that look, no state should actually rejoice that we don't have confirmed cases yet,
including states that have app.
I listened to the Commissioner of Health, is it Cross River? The female commissioner for health in Cross River State is saying she fell short of accusing NSCDC that they are saying that they are going to pay people millions if those people can allow themselves to be tested.
Since we can't get
it. No, I saw the video.
I know.
Yeah. So that allegation, yes,
since
we
we
can't substantiate the allegation.
I'm
just saying that this has gone beyond politics, because I don't see why the Center for Disease Control will want to say so states. The bottom line that what we have here now is that we have just 2 more states. Is this a kind of advantage or whatever, Jide?
There's no big deal in that. Up till less than a week or so ago, Taraba didn't have any case. Adamawa just had their first case last week. But today it's growing. Borno too, for a long time, didn't have any case. Yobe too. Just so it can happen anytime. There was a time we were praising Kano. I think we were saying that what is the medicine that they are using in Kano that up to now there's no case. You know, and I said it that time. I said my fear is that Kano, if it enters Kano, we will be in trouble. Everyone can see why I was afraid for Kano. Because the moment it got into Kano, it began to spread like wildfire in Amatan.
Mysteriously.
You know? So this is the thing. Until you are able to ramp up testing. There was a time that Malawi praised itself as a country that, look, we do not have a single case. But go and check now. They now have cases. There was a time that we were praising Botswana. Oh, no case from Botswana. In the end, Botswana too, they have cases. What we should be doing is expand the capacity to test. We have seen the Ghanaians even using drones to bring tests to the doors of their people. Let's expand the capacity to test across our country. Once we are able to do that, we will know those states that genuinely they do not have cases. Because the deputy governor of Kogi said one thing. He said, look, we can't be testing people at random on the streets. That until someone shows symptoms before we test. And that is the problem that I have with the situation in our country. In the UAE, for example, in Dubai, you can drive into the facility, nobody will touch you, and you are tested. In our country, we are waiting for symptoms before we test people. Even if in our country now, you can't simply say, look, I want to know my status. But that should be the case.
Even if you have the symptoms,
yeah.
for them to evacuate you is trouble.
It's a
for you to get yourself in the isolation center.
And if your state does not have an isolation center or a testing facility.
If you don't have a testing facility, you cannot. Oh, the question was asked the Kogi governor, have you been testing people? He said, well, since we do not, we've not been doing that. So how do you then determine that people don't have it? When 9 states, when you share boundary with 9 states, some of them have high burden of the disease. So how do you want me to believe that there's nobody in that state that has it?
Abuja particularly.
You are sharing with Abuja and 9 other states, making 10 states, Kogi alone, sharing boundary with 9 states and then Abuja, making 10. So until they ramp up testing, if I were the NCDC people now, we will, whatever, maybe we brought the Chinese to help us build molecular testing centers. Let's take test centers to the door of Kogi State. Let's take them to Cross River. A situation in which, from the south, if you want to test people, you take them to those states. How can we then test enough people? We can't. So it's the capacity to test that determines how many people actually have the virus, or actually carrying the virus.
All right, now, day by day, we continue to witness improvement in the distribution of palliative materials to people. Some lawmakers, like the majority leader of the House of Representatives, Alassane Adodogua, representing Tunduwada, Dogua constituency of Kano State, and the senator representing Kano North, Barau Jubril, and others have joined in the spreading the goodwill. Solomon, this is a critical time. We have, even after the lockdown has been eased, people will still find it difficult economically because it's not looking good when it comes to the front.
One of the challenges is always that the poor will always be with you, no matter how hard you try, and no matter how good the economy.
But this is at
this time, the situation on ground, the crisis on ground has accentuated the level of poverty in the land. Now, my worry is it is good that those people of means, public officials especially, should rise up and be responsive and help to alleviate some of the sufferings and the problems of the people at this time. It will be irresponsible not to do that. But my worry is it is not enough to keep on handling this thing at random levels, you know. I would have thought that we have spent 1 month in lockdown already, 1 month plus, and then we've been distributing palliatives at the levels we've been doing to the best that we can. I still saw a palliative being distributed somewhere around the office yesterday, and the way people came to take more than 1 round, you know, more than necessary round.
They're hungry.
Yeah, true. But then the point is, I'm looking at a situation where we can actually devise a means, okay, so that it doesn't look like everybody's just doing disjointed things here and there. There has to be a system. Every time government says they've spent this amount of money, they've done this, and people are asking, I haven't received it, I haven't seen it.
So this is not government, this is individual.
Solomon, when it comes to hunger, we have, you don't have long time, you don't have short time and medium time projects. You are projecting something that's okay, maybe in future, subsequently.
That has to be some lesson we have to learn now.
Okay, ASAP now, Nigerians are hungry.
No, I agree.
This COVID-19 has actually aggravated the level of hunger in the land.
I agree.
So for Honorable Alassane Adodogua, it's a good one. Yesterday too, immediately we finished the program, somebody from Diaspora Commission actually called my attention to it that Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa actually in the Ikorodu constituency actually distributed cash too. So what I told the spokesperson, I just said, okay, get us the video and we'll go ahead like we did for Senator Omar Agege.
If Omar Agege, if I was that man, I would sue you. Ọmọ Agege.
Yes, oh, I'm not from.
Because Agege, remember Agege bread.
Lagos. Okay. Ọmọ
Agege.
Ọmọ Agege. Ọmọ Agege.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, Senator.
Adodogwa, 2,000 bags of 50 kg rice, 300 bags of 100 kg sacks of maize, 200 bags of 50 kg local beans, 200 bags of 50 kg wheat. Then it distributed 20 million naira to various households. Senator Barau Jibrin, Kano North, Chairman Senate Committee on Appropriation, 2,000 bags of rice, 2,000 bags of beans and maize, and then he shared 30 million to different households. Yes. You see?
So that will go a long way in a state like Kano.
Especially when you wait, you are expecting something from government.
Yes.
And it doesn't come. Your senators, your lawmakers, they live around you. If these lawmakers don't do what they are doing,
ask them questions.
People will surround their houses.
Yes.
When the children of the poor get hungry,
you
too, you are not safe. So they are realizing that, and they are beginning to do it. One of the chairmen in Lagos that we really need to commend is the chairman in Sanwo-Olu, Abdul Salau. He has set a worthy example in providing for the poor. And this is what we want to see continue. Many of our viewers now, they are now telling us they are lawmakers that have failed to do anything.
Yes.
But we are being a little bit patient.
Yes.
Let us see.
Because we'll start calling people out.
Yes. They are telling us that, look, this one has not done anything. This one, you see, we are just a little bit patient. This is the time that you have to show compassion to the people. You go to them to ask for their votes when election comes.
Yes.
During election time, you have no qualm sharing money to them. Sharing gari to them. You put your photographs on the gari bags. But now that the people need it, we want them to stay in their houses.
They're starving.
Hunger is pushing them out of their homes. And instead of you to come out and help, you are reluctant. People like the Obasa, who used to be a local government chairman, is still giving people food.
Yes, former local government chairman
of Onibongo. He's still giving people food. In fact, I learned that some of the food that Faleke even released got to Ogun State, got to Akute area.
That's Honorable
James
Faleke.
This is what he spent more than 25 million on just buying bags of rice and giving to people. This is what we want. And remember the case of those blind boys.
Yes.
Immediately we talked about them, those Unilag blind boys.
Yes.
Even the
SRJ.
Bashir.
Yes, Bashir.
Bashir.
Yes,
the new spokesman for the Senate. He waded in. The traditional leader of traditional ruler of Ugbo land.
Okay, Olubo.
Akinrutan.
Yeah.
He too,
Obat.
Yes, Obat sent a message that I want to help those boys. So you can. This is the extent to which
Nigerians can be very
Nigerians
generous.
can go.
Yes.
And a man a military contractor based in the UK, got in touch with the VC and made available the sum of 200,000 for those blind boys.
Unilag.
Yes. So this is the thing. We need to help our people, lift them up, from the barricade, so that they too can be happy. The tension in the land will go down when people can find food.
Yes, it's not for lawmakers alone. We have a lot of
unelected
public officers, commissioners. We have a lot of government appointees across. I saw another one, even the photographer to Mr. President, Bayo went to his constituency, gave relief materials. Yes.
And it's not a money bag. It's not a money bag.
It's not even the public. So
if they can do that, what are those politicians waiting for?
He distributed, I saw it online, he distributed things for a lot of people in, I think it's from Ekiti, somewhere in Ekiti. Yes. Olawale is calling us from Lagos.
Yes, Olawale from Ikorodu.
Oh, Ikorodu in Lagos.
Oh, good evening, Ayo.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Wale.
My superior.
I greet you, sir.
I salute you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah. Although the government here will be partial implementation of the lockdown as from Monday, but let me don't deceive you. the success or failure of that partial lockdown actually lies with the way the behavior of the members of the National Union of Road Transport Workers and the Nigerian police. If they don't compromise, well, it will be all well and good. But I doubt if they will not compromise. Now, it is security agents that are even ushering people into Farragon, and they will overload and so on and so forth. When they can do that now, when they're not even supposed to be working, what about when you have now released us partially? What will happen? So what will help us
is going to be a big issue.
God bless you.
Thank you, Wale.
Thank you, Wale.
Enforcement is going to be a big issue ahead of Monday, gentlemen.
I mean, at this time that there is total lockdown, I have seen commuter buses loading without restraint. I have seen some, and I wonder who allowed this man on the highway. How did he do it?
How did we come to have traffic gridlock on Third Mainland Bridge? How did it happen?
How? Who opened to where?
You see, what Nigerians have shown, because what we have is not full, at no time did we have full lockdown, just as our friend in Abuja explained. The moment the president gave exceptions,
yes,
definitely it's not a full
total
it's not total lockdown. But what Nigerians are saying is that from their behavior, that what we work with them is a full lockdown. Once you give exceptions, look at what security people are doing. They are the ones driving many of the buses that you see. So when you now want to arrest them, they flash their ID card at you. Will you arrest a soldier? Will you arrest a soldier now? So that's what that attack was saying, that look, the people who giving us so much problem, they are the security agents. They are the ones driving. You see somebody in a car, he has loaded people. When you want to arrest him, you discover that it's a soldier.
Well,
so it's unfortunate.
I have to leave it there. Solomon Ajuziogu,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for your analysis. And the maestro himself, PKO, Babajide, Kolade-Otitoju.
Thank you.
Thank you for always being there.
Thank you.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozugbakun, begging you to stay at home and please stay safe. God bless Nigeria.